let me talk about the Rams and why I'm not upset with the Rams. You shouldn't be upset with the Rams. The Rams, you don't see this that much in sports. The Rams is an interesting team, and what I say is you don't see the type of team that you don't see that much in sports is the team that usually goes for it for 1 year and actually gets it. You see, it's very it takes a lot. Football is hard. Sports is hard. You see that a lot in basketball too. A team that'll be formed. The Brooklyn Nets. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden. That team wasn't built to be. They thought, of course, you can market it as that, but that team was not built to be good for years to come. That team was built to win a championship in the immediate. Ultimately, obviously, it didn't happen. You saw that also. I think it was the 2004 Lakers. You had Shaq, Kobe, Gary Payton, Karl Malone. Obviously, Gary Payton, Karl Malone, they were at the end of their primes, but you didn't get them to win a championship for years to come. You got them to win a championship that year. It's very rare that you see a team go all in for 1 year and actually win it. Even in football, a lot of the teams that won outside of maybe the Eagles, but the Eagles, they were not good just because their quarterback wasn't that good in Carson Wentz moving forward. But they even got back to relevancy and, of course, went to the Super Bowl last year. It's very... I don't know how to predict the Los Angeles Rams because this team looks drastically different from the team that won a Super Bowl, obviously. I mean, there's a lot of players that were on that Super Bowl team. Odell Beckham Jr., Von Miller. Like, there's a lot of players that were on the Super Bowl team that's not on this team. There's a lot of turnover there's a lot of people that's not on this team that was on this team for the Super Bowl. Now, of course, you have like the four mainstays, right? The four players that obviously have stayed, and that's Cam Akers, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald. Now, Aaron Donald, he's not in his prime. Let's say that. Let's be completely honest. Aaron Donald is not in his prime anymore. However, he still should be considered one of, if not the best defensive player in football. I understand he had an ankle injury last year. We need to see him get back to 100%. He's saying that he's in the best health that he's ever been in. I'm expecting a big year from Aaron Donald, and I'm expecting a big year from a player that a lot of people argue, is he the best defensive player ever? That's how good Aaron Donald has been. Of course, you have Cooper Kupp. I know he got hurt last year as well, but he is one of the best wide receivers in football. That's just how it is. His route running, his dependability as far as catching the ball. He doesn't drop the ball a lot. Cooper Kupp is Cooper Kupp. And of course, we have Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford, we know the numbers that he put up in Detroit, even though it didn't amount much to winning. We know how integral he was, not only to Detroit, but to Calvin Johnson's career and Calvin Johnson's numbers, and vice versa. Let's not get it twisted. Calvin Johnson definitely helped Matthew Stafford a lot. And the first year that Matthew Stafford goes to the Rams, they ultimately win it. You have Sean McVay, the young offensive-minded coach. And, of course, you have Cam Akers, who, while he hasn't had the greatest run of it since the Super Bowl, he's still he still has flashes of a very good running back. But outside of that, what, 4 or 5? It doesn't look beautiful for this team. And on top of that, age is starting to factor in. Matthew Stafford's getting older. Even though Cooper Kupp is still young, he's getting older. Aaron Donald is getting old. Why do I keep saying Darnold? Aaron Donald is getting older. I don't know. I don't have much expectations for this team. Let me just be honest with you. Yeah, you have Tyler Higbee. He was on the Super Bowl team, but he's really hit or miss. John Johnson III, shouts out to him. He's from the crib, but they just re-signed him. I don't have much. I will say this. You have pillars at all the positions that you need pillars on, outside of possibly the offensive line. You have, of course, the quarterback, and we've seen Matthew Stafford at his best. Matthew Stafford at his best, obviously, is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. You have a pillar at the wide receiver position. You have Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp was one of, if not the best wide receiver just 2 years ago. You have Aaron Donald, who will go down as arguably the greatest defensive player ever, and can still have a case to be the best defensive player in football. And of course, you have Cam Akers, who, 3 years in, we'll see. But outside of that, this team, the Rams spent most of their capital on that championship. And for people that's saying that's what the goal was. And we knew this was going to happen. We knew if you won the championship and honestly wasn't able to retain a lot of those players, you weren't able to retain Von Miller. You weren't able to retain Odell Beckham Jr. We knew that it was going to look very different than it has been. And a team that's not built for longevity has a point where at some point the train is going to stop. And the Rams built a team for the train to stop after 1 year. Now, no, I'm not saying that the Rams don't have a shot to win. But what I'm saying is the Rams, it feels like the Rams are going to look eerily similar to what they've looked like for the last few years now outside of the Super Bowl team, and that is an incredible defensive player, and Aaron Donald putting up big numbers, showing the world why he's one of the best, if not the best players in football. And then on top of that, nothing much else. I mean, yeah, and that's no disrespect to Matthew Stafford. I think Matthew Stafford is going to be good, but the offensive line is still a huge problem. And outside of Cooper Kupp, you don't have another reliable wide receiver, nor do you have really another reliable target. Because again, you have Tyler Higbee, but Tyler Higbee is very hot and cold. And when I look at the Rams' schedule, Week 1, like I said, out the gate, you go up you're at Seattle. Then you have the 49ers. You have to go against Cincinnati this year. You have to go against the Eagles this year. You have to go against the Steelers this year. You have to go against the Cowboys this year. You have to go against Baltimore in Week 4 at Baltimore. Why is that a 10 a.m. game? Why is that a 10 a.m. game? Oh, never mind. Yeah, you got to go at Baltimore. It says Pacific Standard Time. So you're going against, and I didn't just single out those teams outside of maybe the Seahawks. All those teams have solid defenses. Hell, the Colts. We'll see what the Cowboys are. Like, it's the Browns possibly. It's going to be tough, man. And while again, you have solid players, you have what, two or three, 4 or 5 solid players. I don't know. I don't think that's, especially when you look at or compare the Rams to a team like the 49ers. The only thing that, to me, the Rams have better than the 49ers outside of Aaron Donald is the quarterback position. I trust Matthew Stafford more than I trust Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, or Sam Darnold. Oh, and Cooper Kupp. But you can debate who's better right now between Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuels. And the 49ers also have Brandon Ayuk. So I trust the wide receiver core for the 49ers more than I trust the core for the Rams. I'm not trying to crap on the Rams, man. I know it sounds like I am, but I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to put things into reality. Hell, Sony Michel, he just retired at like the age 25 or 26 or something. And there's not much household names. I mean, you have Zach Thomas, but there's not much household names on this team. There's outside of the names we've said, there's not any names that just pop out and like, oh yeah, that they're gonna be a contributing factor to why this team can move forward, or why this team is good enough to win the NFC West. I don't see that. I don't think this team is that much good at all, honestly. Outside of those few names. Now, yes, those are historic. Aaron Donald is a historic name, but what is that really getting you right now? Again, I think that this Rams team is going to look a lot like the Rams that we've seen. Really good, or has a really good. Aaron Donald's going to show out. Aaron Donald's going to be great. Matthew Stafford might win them a couple games, but Matthew Stafford isn't at the age where he can overcome a bad offensive line. And that wide receiver core isn't good enough to overcome a poor offensive line. That's one thing about the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals have never really had a really good offensive line for Joe Burrow. And yes, while Joe Burrow's injury can be connected to the offensive line, one of the reasons why they've been successful is because of that wide receiver core. And because Joe Burrow is so good, and because that wide receiver core, when you have Jamar Chase, when you have T. Higgins, and you have Tyler Boyd, that wide receiver core is good enough, and those offensive skill sets are good enough to at least overcome a poor offensive line to a certain point. And I don't think the Rams are in that same conversation at all. They have one reliable offensive weapon outside of the quarterback position. That's Cooper Kupp. So I don't expect much from this Rams team. But I don't think they're upset with that. Because, again, they built this team for the immediate present, which was a couple years ago. They wanted to capitalize and they wanted to cash out. They put all their chips in the middle of the table. All of them. For that Super Bowl a couple years ago. And it paid off. They got that Super Bowl. And I think this team knew, and you knew when you looked at that team, this team would look drastically different just the next year or 2-3 years from now. And now the team pretty much had the mantra, we'll deal with it when we need to deal with it. Well, it's happening. And we'll see what happens, man. Oh, man, you stayed to the end of the video. I appreciate you. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any content from your boy. You can also go back and watch past episodes, past clips, and don't forget that the Unpopular Podcast, new episodes drop every Wednesday and Saturday. Appreciate you.